everyone, Chelsea here, and I'm joined by my daughter Avery, and we are going to be offering you a 60-minute deep stretch class. The things that you are going to need are going to be a couple blocks and a bolster or a pillow, maybe taking a couple pillows if you are using soft bed pillows. We're going to get started in Supta Baddha Konasana. So beginning our setup, Avery is already set up, you can see from the side. I'm going to show you in this direction. You're going to take your block. You're going to take this block and make it low, and the second block is going to be one level higher. And you want to make a bit of a T shape with your blocks. And then you're going to take your pillow, or if you don't have a bolster pillow, you don't need to use them. You can just take your back right upon these blocks. And you're going to make a little bit of an incline here. This bottom block is going to be supportive of your upper spine. The top block is going to be supportive of your head. Now you're going to take your hips right up against the base of your bolster, inviting the soles of the feet to touch. Butterfly your knees out to the side and just begin to lower your body and torso down upon your perch. Allow your head to rest heavily upon that top block. And then your arms are just going to rest out beside you. Now for a moment here, just allow your shoulders to fall down and away from your ears. Allow the shoulder blades to coil down and around the edges of the bolster. Seeing if you can find additional space through the chest and the heart, the clavicle. Flip your palms up, being open and ready to receive. Allow your arms to be heavy and still. And with your head supported and slightly above your heart, just begin to close down your eyes. Release your tongue from the roof of the mouth, finding a gentle, relaxed part of the lips. Being mindful that you're not clenching any areas of the face. Soften your temples, your forehead, your jaw. And as we settle into this pose, if it's uncomfortable to take the soles of the feet to touch and knees out wide, you can always choose to take an extended leg option, sending your heels to the bottom corners of the mat. If you need even more support, bend the knees, taking soles of the feet to the earth, and have your knees up towards the sky. Wherever you're at, just allow your legs to rest open, still, heavy, relaxed. And then take a deep inhale through your nose. Fill your belly, chest, and lungs. An audible exhale out the mouth, release and empty entirely. Inhale, we fill, the belly and diaphragm expand. And exhale, release, and let it all go. On your next in-breath, take an extra sip of air at the top, filling, expanding. Exhale it all out, releasing and emptying. Now you could continue this deep, rhythmic breath, or just allow your breath to fall back to its natural pace, its rhythm. Finding that ebb and the flow that allows you to close down your mind from any external distractions so that you can focus here, creating a mind-body connection for the next 60 minutes. Acknowledge if there are places in your body in which you're holding on to tension. You may want to start with the hips and glutes. Seeing if you can relax them a little further. Notice if you're clenching air into your belly. Allow it to soften. Oftentimes we hold tension into the shoulders. Just allow gravity to let them fall towards the outer edges of your bolster and towards your mat so that you find soft arms and an open heart. Releasing any tension in the face. Noticing those places of the body that are heavy onto your mat. And take a few more cleansing inhales and releasing exhales. will be times that the mind begins to wander during this practice. And when that happens, just begin to acknowledge the emotions, the ideas, the to-do lists for what they are. And then allow them to just release and let go, sending them away so that your mind can focus here, now, on yourself in this moment. Let's take a few more rounds of breath here. Very little to no energy, just begin to move around your fingertips. Begin to clench your fists, sending your fingertips towards the palms, and find a big clench of the hands. And exhale, release. Allow your arms to be heavy. Feel the heat in the palms. As we take that 2 more times, we're going to clench the fingertips in. Squeeze it into a fist. Exhale, release the fingers. Relax. Third and final time, you're going to clench your hands in, squeezing nice and tight. And exhale, let it go. Begin to move around your wrists, generating heat in your forearms and in your elbows. Beginning now to awaken the physical body. And if you have healthy shoulders on your next inhale, just begin to reach your arms up overhead. You can continue to move around your fingertips and wrists if you've got any sluggish or stagnant energy residing within them. You can shrug your shoulders up into your ears, creating length of the trunk sides of your body. And then exhale, send your arms wide so that your hands travel back beside your hips. Spending a moment here, allowing your hands to rest heavily to the earth. And then if your knees are out open, you're going to take your hands to your thighs and begin to draw your knees toward one another. Take the soles of the feet to the ground, separate your feet about hip distance apart, allow your knees to face towards the sky, and just stay here for a moment in this supported, elevated position. You may even want to allow your knees to drop in if that was a lot for the inner thighs and hips. Flicker open your eyes if they're not already. And then we're going to use our forearms to come on up. So if it's helpful, you can drop your knees to one side. And then we're going to begin to deconstruct this little tower that you have, sending your bolster back behind you to the right side. And then you can clear your mat of the blocks for a moment. As we come up, we're going to find staggered legs. You're going to roll onto this right hip. Keeping the right knee bent, we send the sole of the left foot to the back of the room. Now the sole of that right foot is hugging the top of that left thigh. If you want, you could take a 90-90, which just means you're going to take that right shin parallel to that top edge of your mat and reach that left knee back a little bit more. This is going to be a little bit more intense. So maybe you start with just that stag leg. If you want to go further, you can. Left hip is going to naturally lift away from the mat, and that's okay, but that right hip is going to stay nice and stable into the earth. We're going to come into a side body stretch. I'm going to show you with a block and then show you without a block. So if you've got your block or something to create some height between your hand and the earth, you're going to place it outside of that left shin. And then take that left hand down to the block or to the earth, the left hand. And then you're going to take that right arm up and over. Now that right bicep is going to come by that right ear. Now we're going to slide that left hand or hand and block over to the left side of the room. And then take your gaze underneath that right underarm and underneath the right bicep. Now we're going to try to reach the heart and chest up towards the sky as you actively lean over to the left side of the room. The areas that we're targeting here, especially is that quadris lumbar, is that right side body all the way down to that right hip crease, all the way up through your fingertips. So you want to allow that bicep to fall as we lean over to the left. You take your gaze underneath the right underarm, and then maybe you slide a little bit further. Sending deep breaths into your right side body space. Now, if you're getting a little bit of tingling sensation into this right hand, or if this is uncomfortable, you could place that right hand behind your head and then press the back of your head into the palm to try to guide that right elbow back and send your gaze up to that right elbow and towards the sky. You're still going to get that same side body stretch. Your arm's just not going to be dangling here. Your gaze goes up to that top right edge of the room, and we're still sliding that left hand out if you still have a little bit more space. And take deep breaths into that space in the right side body. Feel the rib cage lengthen. Feel the oblique muscles. Taking long inhales into that right side body. Exhales, maybe you can go a little bit further into the shape. Noticing that ever so slight compression to the left side body. And then see if you can press your head to the back of the room and really open up the chest like you're spiraling that navel up towards the sky. You're lifting up through the heart. Shoulders stay down and away from your ears as we lean a little bit further. We're going to stay here for about 3 more deep in and out breaths. Maybe you choose to take it to your edge. If you took it a little too far right off the bat, you could always slide that left hand in, coming up a little bit more, getting out of that right side body a little bit. Let's go for 2. Send your gaze back forward. Right hand is going to land outside of that right hip. And we're going to slowly start to stack your shoulders on top of your hips, sitting up nice and tall. Your hands are going to go forward out in front of that right shin and left knee. And we're going to find a forward fold from here. You just start to walk your hands to the place where it's comfortable for you. You keep that staggered leg here. And then lower your chin to your chest so that we can soften that space between your shoulders. You want to keep your right glute rooted down into your mat. So no lifting of the right hip away from the earth. And then maybe you crawl your hands forward. Think about reaching your heart and chest towards that right shin. And then if you'd like, a little bit of release into the neck after that active stretch. Lowering chin down, allow the head to fall and a curvature to occur into your upper back. Now you might be able to come all the way down here. Maybe you're staying here onto your forearms, or maybe you're high here on your hands. But you really want to work to square everything off to the front of the room, and then working to find that forward fold wherever you're at. Taking a few deep rounds of breath. So travel all the way down to your hips, finding stability. Exhale, we fold a little bit deeper, finding space. If you're one that needs more, you could always take 90-90 with your legs. If you're one that needs less, you can send that left knee forward, making this compression a little bit less into that left hip flexor. And then you can fold a little bit more if you need to. Could think about pulling that left hip down to the ground, although it's still going to be somewhat lifted away from your mat. And exhale, we fold a little bit deeper. Taking your breaths all the way down to your belly. And exhale all the way out the crown of the head. Let's take 3 to 5 more deep inhales and exhales in this shape. Your chin has been lowered to your chest. Lift your chin away from your heart, sending your gaze to your fingertips. Carefully, we start to walk our hands back towards that right knee, and then towards the left knee, sitting up nice and tall here. We're going to keep our staggered legs and come into a very supported twist. You're going to grab that bolster that's on the right side and send it right up against that right hip crease. Now you still should have that bit of 90-90 leg. You're going to take your hand, so I want the edge of the bolster right up against your hip and right up against your glute. And we're going to begin to frame this bolster. Now if you keep this left hip back as it was, you're not going to go very far. You want to try to take that left hip point forward and stack it over the right. So you're really bringing that hip forward so that you can square your hands outside of the bolster. And then imagine that you're trying to take your belly button, your navel down right on top of the bolster. If you need this to be higher, you could stack additional pillows, or you could even slide maybe a block or two underneath to create a little bit more lift. Now you press into your hands, you work to square your shoulders and your hips to that front of the room, that right side. Take an inhale. Exhale, we begin to lower the belly and chest down. Now if it's okay on your neck, send your left ear down to the bolster and just allow your arms to rest heavily. Now I'm not going to come all the way down because I don't want to squish the mic, but Avery is all the way down onto her chest. Left ear is down and arms crawl out to the side so that you can relax completely onto the bolster. If it's too much, again, elevate this here so that it feels like less of a twist. You want to pull that left hip forward, really stacking left hip on top of the right so that you feel that twist of the vertebrae, the wringing of the tissues, and then fold. So with that upper body being really heavy, if you need more, you can take it up, pressing into your palms. You can twist a little bit more by pressing actively into that left hand, and then lower the torso back down, getting a little bit further into that low back. If you still need more here, maybe you take that 90-90 leg, opening that left knee to the back of your mat, and then fold a little bit deeper. See if each exhale can allow you to twist a little bit further. If you chose to take the left ear down and you're experiencing any discomfort into your neck, lift up your head and send your right ear down, keeping that cervical spine nice and straight. And just start to feel the wringing of the tissues all the way from crown of the head down to your tailbone as you work to draw your navel closer towards your bolster, your heart and chest heavier. And you have a unique opportunity here to move into the breath a little bit further. Think each inhale drawing all the way down into your belly so that your belly presses against the bolster and your rib cage expands. And then you feel the softness with each exhale, allowing you to be heavier. You can visualize that inhale sending your breath so deep into your bolster, like you're making an imprint of the belly. And exhale, let all the air out and fold a little bit longer and deeper. Now we're going to stay here for a few rounds of breath. Just a little note. Not to be on your hands or forearms like I am. I just don't want to smush this mic. You want your body to be completely relaxed. This is a passive stretch. We're just manipulating the body in such a way that the position and the bolster, the props do all of the work for you. And you can just focus on your breath, the release of any tension, or soreness, or stress. Take 3 more rounds of breath. Begin now to walk your hands up underneath your shoulders, gently pressing into your palms. You begin to lift your body away from the bolster, nice and slow. And then we untwist and unravel. You're going to lift up this bolster, send it over to the left side of the mat. And then you're going to come back onto your hips. Just bend your knees here for a moment, and let's just windshield wipe your knees right to left, finding a little internal and external rotation before we move to that second side. Once your sides are even, come back to center. We're going to take that same staggered leg from the second side. So bending that left knee, then the right. The sole of the left foot hugs right up against that right thigh. Right heel right up against your hip. And you're going to have a slight lift of this right glute away from your mat most likely, and then a little slight lift of the upper thigh as well. But if you wanted more, know that you could always take that 90-90 option too. If you use the block on the first side, you're going to lift up your block and send it over outside of your right shin this time. Trying to sit up nice and tall, allow that right hand to locate either the earth or your block, and left arm is going to reach up. Now we internally rotate that left arm so the eye of the elbow is facing to the right side of the room. Lift up on your inhale. Exhale, we start to slide that right hand to the right side of the room, leaning over to the right. And once you come to your edge here, send your gaze underneath the left underarm. Now press into that right palm and see if you can articulate through the spine, reaching the heart up, almost like you're spiraling the chest up and sending your gaze up towards the sky. Now you exhale, maybe you fold a little bit further to the right side of the room. And we have that same option here. If this is too much on that left arm, we take that left hand behind your head, pressing the back of the head into the palm, reaching left elbow back, open up your chest, and then fold over to the right as you slide right hand or hand and block over to the right edge of the room. And then start to notice that space in the left side of your body. Keeping the left hip rooted, creating space between each rib cage, lengthen your oblique, feel the low back muscles, and then press your head to the back of the room. Let's see if we can open up the chest a little bit further, finding a slight twist of the thoracic and cervical spine. As your gaze goes up, maybe you fold further to the right. Using that breath as a guide if you could go further, but if it starts to feel constrictive in any manner, then you need to back off, maybe taking it up, drawing that right hand closer to that right shin, reconnecting with your deep inhales and exhales before deciding to go further or staying where you're at. We hold here, breathing into the left side body for 3. Last 2. We send that left hand down outside the left hip, and then we stack the shoulders over your hips, sitting up nice and tall. Forward fold, your hands arrive in front of that left shin. Keeping your shoulders and hips square to the front of the room, you walk your hands forward. As you walk your hands forward, you keep that left glute and hip and thigh firmly rooted into your mat, maybe even pushing back through that right hip at the same time. And then lower your chin to your chest. Allow the head to let go, the neck to release. If you want to drop to your forearms, you can here, just making sure that your glutes aren't lifting. Working to see if you can square your shoulders and chest off to the front of the room, meaning if your right shoulder is lifted higher than the left, see if you can draw it down and then fold a little bit further, reaching your belly button towards that left ankle bone. If you're holding yourself up in any manner, even if you're flat to the ground, notice if your shoulders are creeping up into your ears. And if so, lower them down into the upper back and fold. Letting your head be heavy. Letting your hips begin to open. Feel the space in your low back. Your chin is towards your heart. Begin to lift your head with ease. Begin to walk our hands back towards that left shin to stack your shoulders on top of your hips, sitting up tall. You guys should have that bolster now on the left side. We're going to use it. We're going to take it right up against this left glute. So from here, if you need to take that left knee out to the left edge of your mat a little bit more, you can. You're going to take that bolster right up against that left hip and thigh. And then this right hip is probably coming back a little bit. You need to pull it forward so that that right hip bone is coming towards the inner left thigh. And you're stacking that right hip on top of the left so that you can begin to twist over to the left side, placing both hands outside the edges of your bolster. And then work to square your shoulders off and gently begin to lower your belly, chest, and head down onto your bolster. You have the option of making this higher by elevating what you need, adding what you can underneath to bring the bolster towards your body. Don't let that right hip come back. You want to draw it forward. And then if you've got a healthy neck, send your right ear down so you get that full rotation of the spine. If that's too much, too soon, place your left ear down. Just keep the crown of the head in line with your tailbone. Now walking your arms out to the side to make sure that you're not holding yourself up through the forearms or elbows or palms. If you need to readjust to go further into the shape, you take your hands under the shoulders, pressing into that right hand. You twist and rotate, working to guide the navel down towards your bolster. And then you lower yourself back down, resting heavy and resting still. If you need more through the legs, you can always take 90-90, sending that left shin to that left edge of your mat, and that right knee to the back of the mat, taking that right heel closer towards your left glute. Continuing to twist from your pelvis. Exhale, soften deeper, and breathe. Notice if there's any tension in the space between your shoulder blades. See if you can allow it to roll off the upper back. Try to take your breath all the way down to your navel and into your hips with each in-breath. Exhale completely with each out-breath. Following that inhale and exhale as it begins to bring stillness to the mind, stillness to the body. Feeling that right side of your low back lengthen. We hold for 3 to 5 more rounds of breath. Gently start to walk your hands up underneath your shoulders. Lift your torso. And then we start to unwind here. Now you're going to take your knees back together. You're going to send that bolster back behind you. And then bend your knees once again. Let's find that windshield wipe right to left. A couple times, side to side. Finding some more space, you can walk your feet wider. And once your sides are even, we're going to come to tabletop to all fours. So as we come to all fours here, stand or tabletop as you stack your wrists underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. Now I'm going to scoot back a little bit just because I feel like my arms will be out of frame, but you are going to need one of your blocks here. You're going to take it off to the side. As we come into tabletop, we're going to work spinal undulation. Spread your fingertips really wide. Inhale, arch your back, drop your belly, pull the heart between the gate of the biceps and send your gaze up high. Exhale, press the earth away, chin to chest, navel to spine. We round and press the heels of your hands into the mat. Let's start to take a couple more here. Just begin to close down your eyes as you move through your cat, your cows, and then acknowledging where you need to find movement into the back side of your body. If you hold tension to your outer hips, you may want to send your hips right to left instead. If you're getting a lot of tension, that space between your shoulders, finding some protraction and retraction by drawing shoulder blades in. If it's in your neck, you can send your gaze over opposite shoulders, just finding fluidity of the hips and the shoulders and the spine. We stir up any synovial fluid. Just moving organically with your breath. Take 2, maybe 3 more inhales and exhales. Meeting me back in a neutral spine. You're going to grab for your block, or maybe you have a couple books at home that you could use, and you're going to take it underneath the right hand. Now I want you to take that right hand down on top of it, The whole time you're going to keep your right wrist, forearm, and elbow off and away from the mat here. We're going to find a subscapular release through the right side. Now I don't want that block to go to the top right corner of the room. You want to slide it forward, and the eye of the elbow, that's the elbow crease, is going to come up as the bicep stays by the right ear. Hips stay stacked over the knees. As we slide that block forward, remember to keep your elbow lifted. We're going to take this left forearm down. Your left fingertips are going to reach to the right side of the room. And this is going to be where your head is going to be supported. You're going to drop your head down. You're going to keep that right bicep by the ear. You're going to keep your forearm and elbow lifted. And then you're going to slide that block forward to try to take the heart and chest down towards your mat here. Finding a concavity in the upper back. You're taking pressure off of your low spine. Now, a thing I see a lot here is bending that right elbow out to the side or letting the block travel out to the right. You want to keep your wrist, elbow, and shoulder all in one straight line, keeping your forearm and elbow up and away from the ground. You squeeze your bicep by that right ear. You drop your head down and you try to plug that right shoulder joint back into its socket to take the shoulder away from the ear. And then you allow the chest to fall. And you get that nice big stretch underneath the right underarm, through the subscapula, all the way through the right side of the body. Now you might have to stay active in that right palm, pressing it into the block so that that right elbow doesn't relax and cave down towards your mat. Right arm is active, head is heavy, and chest begins to fall towards the mat. Keep thinking about rolling the eye of the elbow up towards the sky, plugging shoulder down into the upper back, and then folding with a little bit more. Each exhale takes the chest further to the mat. Good, we take a few more rounds of breath here. If you need more, sliding right hand further forward or dropping chest down. If you need less, lift your head up and slide that block back, and you can still get that nice stretch into that right shoulder. Try to resist the urge to fidget. I know it's uncomfortable. Let's hold for 3 more rounds of breath together. Start by lifting your third eye away from that left forearm. There's really no graceful way to come out of this. You just slide that block back. We eventually come back up to all fours. And then we're just going to take that block and slide it underneath the left hand. So now that left hand is elevated. We're going to take the same thing second side. So a lot of times we have asymmetry in the shoulders, which is why we're doing right and left side. Extended puppy dog pose, you might get stopped by one shoulder. So we have an opportunity to go further or less from side to side here. We're going to start again by stacking all the joints, wrists, elbow, and shoulders in line. And you're going to reach that block forward. Your hips stay stacked over your knees. And as you slide the block forward, you're going to lower the right forearm down and take your right fingertips to the left side of the room. That's going to give you a little bit of stabilization in your upper body. Then you aim to take your third eye towards that right forearm. At the same time, that block is naturally sliding to the front of the room. You want to make sure it's not sliding out to the left. You can even look up and ensure that your wrist, elbow, and shoulder are all in one straight long line. And your left forearm and elbow are lifted, and you're rolling the eye of the elbow, the crease up towards the sky, dropping your head down. Plug your shoulder down into the upper back, and then allow the heart and chest to fall towards your mat. Now here we're getting that stretch into the left side of the body. Again, taking out any compression into your low spine. You get that concavity of the spine. That extension. At the same time, you're working that left subscapula, arm,
chest. Notice if you can press that left palm into the block, maybe sliding it forward as the body starts to open up. If you need less, you can elevate your head away from that right forearm, making sure that your hips are stacked over your knees. And then see if you can draw that left underarm towards your mat. Again, roll the eye of the elbow up, internally rotating the left arm, squeezing bicep toward left ear. And then from here is where you fold it in a little bit further. Deep breaths. Let's take 3 more in and out breaths here. As you take it to your edge. Lift your head from that right forearm, sliding that block back towards and underneath you. And you can just take that block and move it to the very top of your mat. Now we're going to come onto our bellies here. If you want to move around your shoulders before we do so, you can. As we come into our belly space, we're going to move into a Sphinx pose. You definitely want to have one block up here if you have it. If you don't need it. And then maybe you have access to your bolster too as well. As we come into Sphinx pose, you're going to take your elbows underneath your shoulders and your wrists in line with your elbows. The thing I see here often is elbows towards the rib cage. You want to draw them underneath the body, pressing into your forearms, and then we start to pull the heart and chest forward. Again, shoulders down away from your ears. Your hips and your pubic bone are heavy into your mat. Now this might be a great place for you to be. If you want more support of your head, you could take that block to a medium or to a tall height and drop your head down so that your third eye has something to rest upon. And you can press your third eye into the block while pressing forearms into the earth and pulling the chest towards the edge of the block. Now, if you still want more, you can take that bolster that you have and navigate it underneath your elbows and forearms. This is going to create a little bit more lift, but your pubic bone and hips need to stay on the ground still, and your elbows still need to stay underneath your shoulders. Your hands and wrists might dangle slightly off of your bolster, and that's okay. See if you can take your sternum bone to the edge of the bolster, pressing forearms deeply into it and shoulders down away from your ears. We breathe. So finding that length through the center of the body. Unclench your glutes, softening your thighs. Work to lower your shoulders down away from your ears as you track heart and chest forward. Again, your head could be relaxed onto a block if you want some more support. And we stay for just a few rounds of breath. If your head is on the block, begin to lift your head up. And if you're on just your forearms, you're going to grab for that bolster and we're all going to send it down underneath your belly. So I want your chest, your sternum bone to kind of be at the top of this bolster. That way your hips and your pubic bone are still into the mat. Your block might be invaluable for you here, so you want to keep it. But we're going to come into a shoulder stretch. So as you come into this little Sphinx pose, this is going to give you some height to thread this right arm underneath. You want to bump that right forearm and bicep right up against the top of your bolster with your right palm up, and you slide it to the right side of the room. Now you want to square your shoulders off here, drawing that left shoulder towards that right elbow crease. And then we take this left hand and we squeeze it right on top of the right. Left palm is up. And then from here, you lower your chin towards your biceps. Now this is where that block might be handy, because if your head doesn't come all the way down onto your mat or onto the floor, you are going to take your head down and just rest it here. Now I'm kind of pinching this mic, so I'm going to work around it. So your arms are sandwiched on top of one another. They're threaded and your head goes down. So you see Avery behind me. She's in a great position there. Palms are up. Arms are squeezing up against the top edge of the bolster. Head is supported, chin to chest, and she's entirely relaxed. That space between her shoulders is just soft, and she's getting a really nice tricep stretch as well as the arms. Now, if this is too much for you, you can just choose to keep only the right arm underneath, and you can take that left arm forward, making a little backwards L shape with the arms, and your head can come down. Now I'm going to show you this version here. And then if you're staying in this little L-shaped version, you're going to take that left underarm towards the right elbow crease so that your shoulders are square to the front of the room and your head drops. Getting a nice stretch into the back sides of the arms. A stretch into the scapula, the deltoids and the neck muscles. Let's take a couple more deep rounds of breath. Begin now to lift your head away from the block or from the earth. You unthread that left arm first so that you can come back up into that little Sphinx variation. And we take your second side. So now you're going to thread that left arm underneath first. Left palm goes up. And you start to lower down, and then that right arm goes over the left. Now you really want to reach your fingertips to opposite edges of the room. And then drop your chin down towards your bicep and your head down towards the block. Now, if you're going to stay in that more modified version, your left arm is still right up against the top edge of your bolster. Your left fingertips are still reaching to the right side of the room, but that right arm is going to go forward. And you work to draw that right underarm towards that left elbow crease, and your head goes down, making that L shape with the arms. You find that left tricep stretch. Dropping your head, let your chest and belly fall onto your bolster as you feel that space around the left shoulder blade. If you need more, keep crawling your fingertips to the opposite edges of the room, finding more depth and more space. Try to keep your shoulders squared, your breath long, and your head heavy. Let's take 5 more rounds of breath. That right arm is extended. You take it back underneath you, or if the right arm is over the left, you unthread. We're going to come back, elbows and forearms back down to the earth, pulling chest forward. And exhale. We're going to press it back to all fours. So as we come to hands and knees, the bolster or pillow that's underneath you is just going to move off to the side. We're not going to need it for a little bit, but we are going to use this one single block. Now we're going to tuck the left toes underneath. If you have to reach back to ensure that all 5 toes are tucked underneath the earth, you can. We're getting a stretch at the bottom side of this left foot, the Achilles tendon, and all the way up the back side of that left leg. So once you get your toes worked underneath you, you're just going to step that right foot between your hands. You're in a bit of a lunge pose, and you're going to grab for that block and take it inside of that left shin and inside the left ankle. Now I have mine at that medium height, and that's perfect for me. Avery has really flexible feet, so she's going to take hers down all the way to the small height. And then from here, you draw your hips back towards that left heel, dropping that right glute for some stability onto the block underneath that right hip. Now notice here what's happening with this left heel. If it's splaying out to the side, that's putting more weight into that left pinky edge. You want to take it right back underneath so that you get that big toe side edge and everything is staying nice in line. If you need more, lower that block down, creating a little bit more weight onto that left heel. If you need some more support, if this is really intense for you, you can take your hands forward and just work stretching out the back of that left foot without ever taking your hips back. But the idea is that the shoulders are over the hips and you're getting that really strong stretch underneath the left side of the foot. Now you can stay here, but I'm going to take you into a twist as well. Hands can come to heart center, thumbs to sternum space. We begin to gaze over outside of that right thigh, and we're going to hook this left elbow outside the right thigh, and then press this left tricep, right thigh, thumbs heart center, and begin to send your gaze over that right shoulder and elbow. You could always send that hand down too if you've got that support. My hand doesn't quite reach, so palms go to heart center. You press, and then you send your gaze up towards the sky, rotating your belly to the right side of the room. You start to feel that big stretch into the underside of that left foot, heel and Achilles. Don't let that left heel splay out to the side. You want to keep pulling back through the inner edges of the foot and twist and rotate. Wringing out the tissues along the spine. Getting a stretch into the top of that left thigh. We hold for 3. Last 2. Your gaze goes down to that right knee as we unravel and untwist. So then inhale to the bottom of that left foot. And then we're going to take our hands down. You move the block back in front of you. Untuck your left toes as you drop the right knee down to the ground. It's going to feel really nice here to give that top of that left foot a little bit of a tap. All right, and we go to that second side. So now we take your right foot and we tuck it underneath. You tuck all 5 toes, stepping left foot forward. You grab for that block that you have and send it inside of that right shin and ankle bone. Now again, mine's on that medium height. And then once you've got the flexion of that right foot and you can maintain it, you lower your hips down towards that block. Look back at your feet, making sure you're not rolling to the outer edges of that right foot. And then you want to pull that heel in right underneath the right glute. Avery has hers a little bit lower, but you want to feel supported underneath this left hip so that you can sit up nice and tall, shoulders on top of your hips, and you get that nice big stretch underneath the right foot. If you need less, lift your hips away from the heel and just work for that stretch in the bottom side of the foot. If you're moving along with us, you're going to take your hands to heart center. Keep your thumbs at your heart. Send your gaze outside of that left thigh. We're going to hook that right elbow outside of the left leg. And then press your thumbs to heart center as you send your gaze over to that left elbow and left shoulder. We work to find the rotation of the spine as we bring the navel towards the top of that left thigh, and your gaze goes up over the left shoulder. Pressing firmly through your hands, maybe you can reach your thumbs to sternum center, back through the heart. Bring your focus back to the underside of that right leg, that right heel and foot. Making sure that you're still equally distributing your weight between the big toe and the outer edge of that right foot as we twist. Good. We're going to hold 3 deep rounds of breath here. Take your gaze back forward as we come back to center. Send an inhale to the bottom side of that right foot. And then we walk our hands forward. We scoot the block out. Untuck your right toes, sending left knee down. Again, tapping maybe the top of that right foot would feel good. Wiggling it out, shaking it around. And then we're going to come onto our back. So we're going to take our hips down, and the only thing you're going to need here for the remainder of practice will be your bolster. We're going to come into a supported fish here. You're going to take your bolster, or if you just have a block, you can do the same thing with a block as well, but you still want to take it horizontally, and you want to take it to your thoracic spine. So you begin to coil the upper back over and around the edge of your bolster, so that the tips of the shoulders come down to the mat, your arms come out to the side, and your hips are heavy as well. Your head is on the earth. You feel that lift of the heart and chest, display of the rib cage, but your tailbone and glutes are heavy. Now you can extend your feet out for this long supported fish pose. Allow the throat to remain exposed. That Vishuddhi chakra is opening. The back of the head rests heavily into your mat, and you feel that stretch in the front of the chest and shoulders. Now we're going to come into a final neck stretch here. You're going to take your hands behind your head. So you're cradling the back of your head here. And then we're going to use our hands to peel the heart towards your chest and squeeze your elbows toward the midline of the body. I want you to feel traction in the cervical spine, length into the upper back. As you pull chin in, you're really tugging with your hands, but the breath isn't constricted here. We're only going to be here for a moment. Deep breaths into the back of the neck. Squeezing elbows in towards the midline. Exhale, let's release the head back down. Arms lay out to the side. Back into the supported fish pose. Now, if you would like to stay here in supported fish for the remainder of your practice, you can. The other thing I encourage is you could take this bolster underneath your head like a pillow. Or if you have a lot of low back discomfort, you're going to lift up your body and then slide that bolster down behind your thighs as you extend your legs if you want to come into a more standard Shavasana pose. Options here are yours, however you'd like to end your practice as you rest still and heavy. Please know that you can stay here for as long as you like, basking in this place of complete relaxation for as long as you need. Taking a moment of gratitude for your healthy bodies, for this practice of yoga, and the ability to share energy from my space to yours. Staying here for as long as you need. When you're ready, just begin to find a little bit of movement into the body that allows you to reawaken. You could stretch. You may want to pull your knees into the chest. You could roll to the side. But you're going to come up into a comfortable seated pose when and if you're ready. Resting your hands upon your thighs, shoulders down away from your ears. Again now to bend your elbows, sealing hands to heart center. Allow your thumbs to fall to your heart space. Taking this moment to honor this place of love, this place of compassion. As we send our thumbs to third eye center, we honor this place of wisdom and intuition. Bowing together, we say, Namaste.